Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life, the tell-all episode. Let's watch.
We, on both sides, got rid of negative people. The other thing, too, is his mom's no longer living at the house. And now we have privacy.
Wow.
I can't tell you how much I relate right now to you
Your situation.
In your situation. I'm in the back watching the segment, and I'm like, that was us.
Interesting. So I'm imagine based on the data that it's not as bad, but who knows given the way they edit the show. But from Liz being an outsider in the same way that Vanessa is an outsider, there's some correlation there, some analogy there that Ed's mom was invasive and dependent and guilt tripping. We certainly didn't see any of that, but doesn't mean it didn't happen. And that's interesting. It's interesting. And so, because I always wondered, and I think I said this, that Ed shows signs of a lot of relational traumas and a way of coping with it that is very off-putting to people watching the show. And we heard that his dad was stern, which doesn't really say much. And then I remember saying, well, the mom seems perfectly fine. But then I probably quickly said, but we cannot judge a book by its cover. I mean, I have worked with a lot of people who have had, extremely concerning behaviors as a parent who you would never suspect. We have this Hollywood evil stepmother stereotype of what a bad parent looks like, but there's no way to detect a bad parent by talking to them or seeing them parent for a little bit of time. People have, quote unquote, bad parents. The more common scenario is they're good people and good parents, but they get triggered pretty easily and they get distorted and then they mistreat their children. So might Ed's mom be a candidate for that? It sounds like that's what they're saying.
With my partner.
For 39 years, I've taken care of my mom. Anytime my mom needed, I was always there. And by the way, she was always there for me too. She helped me raise my daughter. We have a very special relationship. But you know what? When I decided I wanted to marry Liz, I want my life. I want my family. I want my house.
Okay, so is it possible that all is true? Yeah, and we just never saw any evidence of it. Is it also possible that in addition or in lieu of that, Ed is again just saying something to Liz, like, oh, now that I've gotten rid of my mom, everything's going to be great. Yeah, it was totally all her fault, or something along those lines, something in that direction, as a way of trying to re-story the past so that he can get Liz to be secure with him or something. I don't know. That seems pretty nefarious, but I'm just putting it out there as a slight possibility.
Did you say, Mom, Liz is going to move in, so you got to move out?
No. She was already in the process of moving out.
Ed, how does your mom feel about your engagement to Liz?
She's not happy because she feels like I'm choosing Liz over her.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, if that's true, then that's a pretty good indication of Liz and Ed's claims. So that's not, I mean, she seemed like such a nice person, but like I said, we can't judge a book by its cover. And now Debbie's going to chime in.
It happened.
So we were hoping to get a member of Ed's family.
So just to comment on that, Debbie's like, yep, I can relate to your mom. It happens sometimes. What? So a grown man in his 30s or in his 50s, even if he's making the wrong choice, as a mother, as a parent, why would you put your kid in a position like that where it's like, look, it's either you now, well, so I think what Ed's mom might say, certainly Debbie wouldn't say this because Debbie was friends with Vanessa for a long time, but Ed's mom might say, look, I think you're heading down a really negative road. I mean, certainly everyone on this stage believes that to be true. I don't know about Sean, and the mom might have said, look, if you go back with her, I can't sit back and just watch that happen. There was so much pain and so much destruction. I mean, she tried to destroy you on the internet or whatever. And the mom might be advocating for what she believes to be his best interest, but in the process, there's a lot of conflict. Ed puts his foot down and she's like, fine, then I'm out here. Like, that's a scenario possibly. Or is the mom like Debbie in that it's like, you are mine and you and me, and anyone else gets in, this might be subconscious, anyone that gets in the middle of us must be rejected, and I must do everything I can to get them out of your life.
Family to share their thoughts on Ed and Liz's relationship, but unfortunately, they were not willing to participate. Instead, we have someone who has witnessed Ed's romantic struggles throughout the years, his good friend Rich.
Okay, so it sounds like Sean and the team reached out to the mom and to Tiffany, is that her name, Ed's daughter, and they declined. I'm guessing because they knew it was going to be ugly, and or they just couldn't face seeing Ed and Liz back together because they, from their perspective, probably think Liz is the problem.
Right now, my main concern is Norma.
Why do you think Norma is not happy about their engagement?
Because there was no warning. Over the last how many months we were there supporting you.
Right.
While you're crying, you're going through all your things. We're trying to lift you up.
Okay, so I don't know, but generally speaking, when we are with someone, and I know a lot of you are in this situation, you have a friend or family member who is struggling with a volatile relationship, and we get invested because we care, and we get wrapped in, we get triangulated, we get involved emotionally ourselves. It's not just about supporting someone as they're going through something. We're now part of the situation emotionally. And we listen to them struggle, and we do what we can, and we support, and we try to provide advice, and we maybe say, hey, maybe do this, and then they do it and it works out. And then we say, hey, maybe do this, and they don't do that, and we get frustrated. You know, we get real wrapped up in it. Then they break up, and we're like there for them. We're like, well, it's for the best. You know, you look for someone else. You need some, you know, the mom. You need to just find someone your own age. Maybe an Hispanic, a Latina woman, someone that believes in family values. You know, that's what the mom was saying. Then one day, boom, he's back together with her. Like, wait, what? And it's upsetting. And commonly, what people will do is they will take it personally, being the triangulated third, and you're so wrapped up in it. You don't understand, one, that you've only heard the negativity, and two, you've taken on the issue yourself as if it's yours, but it's not your issue. It's their issue. It's your friend. That's differentiation. If you lack differentiation, you lack the ability to say, oh, in this moment when I'm supporting, I want to move in. But in this moment when they're getting back together with them, and I don't know if that's a good idea, I need to separate. So that's the ability to differentiate. Your problems are not my problems. I'm here for you, but they're not my problems. Your problems affect me, kind of, but I can protect myself from that because I know how to pull back emotionally. And that's that ability. Now, it's unclear what everyone should do in every situation. I'm not saying you should always just throw your hands up and support someone as they go back into a relationship that is really destructive. But that's kind of what I'm seeing is a very common thing that happens to people, which I find to be unfortunate. The support individuals like the mom and the friend become, in my view, too invested in one outcome and too clouded, really. Because the other thing, you know, if I were friends of Liz and Ed and I had determined that their relationship was in all likelihood going to be very difficult and painful for the two of them, I would say, well, I hope the best for you, but I'm worried about the two of you. But what do I know? And it's not my problem, but I'm here for the two of you. You want to understand that you don't understand. And the other attitude that I would have is, well, it probably will end soon, but, you know, love is love, and there's no way of stopping people once they kind of get involved in it. And, you know, but it's not my problem. That ability to distance when you need to, okay? Differentiation is not separation. It's the ability to meld when you need to and separate yourself when you need to. And it kind of sounds... Now, if the mom is heavily enmeshed and controlling and guilt-tripping and terrified of intrusion on the Ed-Norma enmeshment, then she might use guilt trips and try to punish him in a very similar way that Debbie is doing right now. Debbie's trying to get rid of Vanessa subconsciously or consciously, and Colt is now in this position where he has to choose between the two of them because Debbie has kind of put that situation into play. And so is that same situation happening with Liz and Ed? I think Liz, as an outsider who we might be able to trust more, is saying, yes, that is the case, which is hard to imagine Norma being that way, but we don't know.
I have 12 nieces and nephews. I have a sister, a brother-in-law. No one has reached out to them in Arkansas.
Okay,
the
but
people that won't come on are probably my mom and my daughter.
The ones
Because they
closest
will
They're
to you.
be
mad.
called
They're
out.
mad. They're
Right.
mad.
Because he just dropped the bomb on him after all.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the only complaint, I'm guessing that the friend just isn't articulating what the mom and the daughter are thinking, because just because you were surprised, like, oh, I mean, all of us are surprised, like, whoa, I didn't know you were going to get back. That's a surprise. If that's the only complaint, like, what? I'm guessing what the mom and the daughter would say is, I've been pulled back and forth so many times from worrying about you and seeing you suffer and then trying to pull you out and then getting hope for you, and then you're right back into it. Like, what are you doing? This is self-destruction, and it's hard for me to watch, and I can't do it anymore, and I don't want to come on the show and talk about it.
All this time
I
we
didn't
were
drop
helping him.
anything on anybody. I didn't have a chance.
She's so sweet, but there are sides to Norma that I have seen. I don't like the way she is speaking to Ed right now.
She's going to break your heart. You'll
I'm
never
like,
be happy.
hand me that prenup. I'll sign it.
Will you guys have a prenup if you
No
get
way.
married?
I'm
No.
willing
No way.
100% to
Absolutely
do
not.
it.
Absolutely
I'll
not.
sign it, whatever.
No, you won't.
Okay, so I think what's happening right now, they're saying that Norma, the mom, is demanding Ed get her to sign a prenup, presumably because the mom believes that Liz is just in it for the money and they're going to get married, and then Liz is gonna divorce Ed and take all of his money. Okay. I mean, I guess it's possible. It doesn't seem like that's the case, but the mom knows more than we do. Anyway, so that's what the mom is saying. And then Ed is saying, nope, no prenup, no prenup. I think he's saying, I trust her and I don't want to get married with the idea that we might not stay together. That if we don't think we're going to stay together forever, then let's not get married. A lot of people have that attitude. And Liz is saying, I'll sign it. Fine. Give it to me. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide.
Believe in prenups. They are a contract for divorce.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this. Rich,
Now, what I will say is that it's really dependent on you as an individual to decide how you feel about prenuptial agreements, meaning agreements in legal contracts. And sometimes they're found to be not upholdable once divorce happens. But the idea is that if in the, God forbid we break up, then this financial agreement or this agreement around the kids or whatever it is will be the case. And so you're pre-agreeing to that. If this happens, then that happens. And it's not a bad idea. With money, I mean, I don't know. But with kids, sometimes that matters. With other kinds of things like, I don't know, who gets the animals, who gets the house, if it's a sentimental thing, the house, that kind of thing. It's not a bad idea considering that, 50 to 40% of marriages end. So but is it aromantic or is it against romance when you're getting married to consider that a possibility? Usually you don't get married and you're at the altar and say like, well, there's a 50 to 55% chance that we'll, do you on a 55% chance through thick and thin, through sickness and in health, it takes away from the magic, right? But is it realistic? Yeah, it's real. So if people are up for it, it's totally fine, but it's also fine if people don't. With Ed, the only risk is money, and I'm sure Ed will be fine if she takes half his money. I'm just going to take a guess on that.
do you think Ed and Liz are a good couple?
I think they're actually meant for each other, honestly.
Good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay.
I like it.
Why, Rich?
Because they're both insecure and they're both selfish. And
Okay. So the friend is saying, well, I mean, the friend doesn't really know Liz, but the friend knows Ed. By the way, I want to say, do we even know that Ed has more money than Liz? We don't know. But it sounds like that's what they're implying. So Ed's friend is saying that Ed is selfish and insecure. You know, that might, given what we've seen, I mean, I wouldn't use those terms, but I think that does fit within my hypothesis. The insecurity comes from wounds and the terror of losing someone and the desperation, and you'll do a lot of things you wouldn't do normally as a way of trying to retain attachment. And then selfishness as a result of either immaturity, lack of differentiation, or just being so desperate to make yourself feel safe in a relationship that you don't consider other people's feelings. Yeah, I could see that being an accurate conceptualization.
Selfish.
Yeah, I like this guy. You're right on, dude. Yeah.
Why do you say they're both selfish and insecure?
Because they are.
Because Ed, this is the first relationship Ed's had in how many years since his divorce. This is the first one, and he's desperate. You know, he's like.
It's not his first relationship. Rose. Now, maybe he's saying his first engaged. Well, was he engaged to Rose? There's just so many shows I've watched, I forget. But anyway, it's not his first. Now, I think his point is it's been a long time, and maybe there's been one or two relationships recently.
And he told me, he's like, when is this
So
ever
what,
going to
is
happen
he supposed to
you
go
again?
through 5 pieces of ass to find the number one or 10? How many relationships do you want him to find
And would
until
I
he
break up
finds
with somebody
someone?
8 times if I'm desperate?
Yes. Yes, you will.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, let me ask.
Okay, I think there's a lot of things happening here. Okay, so the friend is saying that he hasn't dated much, and so he's insecure and selfish because of that. I think if he had more time to speak, I don't know if I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he would say something like that he doesn't feel secure in himself, and he doesn't have a lot of experience, and so he doesn't know how to navigate asserting his own needs while listening to someone else. Is that what the friend is saying? I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. And then Liz says, what? He has to go through a bunch of pieces of A to find out that, okay, it's like, so Liz is just combative or something. And then Ed says, would someone who breaks up with someone 8 times be desperate? That doesn't show self-awareness and that the therapy has helped with that topic, because yeah, I mean, not desperation, but I mean, the fact that you got back together with her, and I wouldn't call him desperate, I would call him insecure. And maybe, is that what he's hearing? So when he hears insecure, he hears desperate? So, or did the guy say the word desperate? Anyway, it's just an interesting response. What I would hope Ed would say would be, well, yeah, it's true. I am insecure. And it's true that I am selfish at times. And that's what I'm working on at therapy. That would have been a lot more hopeful to hear.
Ed and Rich, there seems to be a lot of friction between the both of you. Where does your friendship stand today?
I put the ball in Ed's court. You know, the last text I told him, I'm like, look, it's your life. I agree. It's your life. Do, what you want. But to turn your back on me, who's been there for blood, sweat, and tears for the last 15
Yeah, it's just, okay. So if you as a friend are saying, I just can't sit here and watch, it's a similar situation when someone goes into substance use. They get sober and you're supporting them, and they relapse and you support them through that. It's painful for you. You support them, they relapse again. It's painful for you. They have a binge for 6 months. That's really painful for you. You get that, you help them, you're supporting. There's a lot, kind of a one-way supportive relationship. And then at a certain point, you're just like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. It's just too painful to watch, and it affects me too much. And I know that's not necessarily your fault, really, but seeing you suffer and seeing you self-destruct in this way, it's just too painful for me. I just can't do it anymore. And I'm sorry, but until you stop that self-destruction, I just can't be your friend. That happens sometimes. Those are tough decisions to make. If he said that, then I would understand. But to say, the ball is in his court, and how can he do this to us? It's like he fell in love, and love does things like this. And he wants to get back together with her, and he had a messy 8 breakup, and now he's back together. That happens to people sometimes. And what, hey, you either break up with her or I'm not going to be your friend. If that's a simplistic way of saying it, it doesn't. I mean, he can do what he wants to, and the friends can. But to frame it as if it's Ed's choice is, certainly Ed and Liz would say, no. This is your choice. You're rejecting him because he's with me. That's on you. He just fell in love. We just fell in love. That's their story.
But that's BS.
How hard is it just to say, hey guys, I'm going to re-explore this with Liz again. I'm going to need my time.
That
That's it.
time
Richard isn't.
for us.
But Richard, I didn't know.
We kept our engagement
Richard,
a
I didn't even
secret.
know that we would get back together.
Why is it about you? We needed privacy.
Right. So it's just kind of all muddled. The friend is saying that he just dropped this bomb and that's why we're rejecting him. And I don't know if I show this clip, but what they're saying is, I told my daughter, and then my daughter, against my will, told everyone else. And so I didn't drop that bomb. Now, maybe the daughter, if she were on the show, she'd be like, he never told me not to tell anyone. So I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like a muddled argument that probably wouldn't resonate with Liz and Ed. Like I said, if you said something like, I just can't watch you self-destruct. It's too painful for me. And I wish you well, and if things go well, then I might be willing to re-engage with you. But I see a train wreck occurring, and I just can't support it. I just can't be witness to it. And so I'm just going to take a break from the relationship for a while. Hey, deserving listeners, as you all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
That are going to support me and my feelings. That's it.
And when I read your messages to Ed not too long ago, you were so negative.
What do you, Liz, you guys weren't even talking. The last
But it's
thing
none
he
of
told
your
me about you.
business. No offense. This is the author of all of our breakup texts.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. So it's not the brother. It's this fella, which I guess would make sense given this conversation. So if that's the case, then and hearing from him, it certainly does paint a picture, right, of a rigid, because there is some controlling language there from him. I don't know, right? I can't tell, but the friend certainly is lending some credence to at least a version of the story that they were saying. But again, Ed broke up with her 8 times, and there was the phone call. Was the friend influential heavily in all those situations? It doesn't seem likely.
Wow. Rich, you were the one that was sending the breakup text messages to Liz?
No, I wasn't sending them. And I knew the story from beginning to end. So Ed had asked for help. Ed's like, I don't know how to put my words together.
Okay. What role do you think Liz played?
Okay, what we're hearing from the friend is that, no. He wanted to break up with her, and he said he didn't know how to word it, and so I helped him word it, but he came to me, which sounds a lot more likely, right?
None of your family members attended?
Absolutely.
What?
And if that's being selfish, I can't apologize for that.
I just want to give it time
I don't.
before we push for that.
I don't want to, but I've chosen Liz over everyone, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to turn my back on my daughter or my mom.
This is interesting because it's a continuation of the dynamic that we saw with Rose, not so much with the mom, but with Tiffany. Remember, Tiffany was gave him an ultimatum well before the show, before we ever met Ed on TV, I believe, if I remember right, that if he continued to date Rose, then she was going to write him out of his life and out of her life, and he chose Rose over Tiffany. And in light of all this, and again, you can make an argument that, hey, I just can't watch this self-destruction. I can't support this relationship. Okay, if there's reasons to believe that. I mean, the amount of volatility. Now, to blame Liz for that, and also to try to, people that are train wrecks are going to train wreck. Put that on a t-shirt. If you have a friend that has a tendency to train wreck, then that's just what they're going to do. And fighting that reality can create a lot of suffering for yourself. And so maybe you have to protect yourself from that somehow, for sure. But to expect different is to expect the unrealistic. And so if you're friends with Ed, you'd have to, or a family member, you have to be ready to accept, like, okay, the Rose thing was a train wreck. What's the likelihood that his next relationship is not going to be a train wreck? It's probably also going to be a train wreck. So I have to prepare myself for that. And what does that mean? And I want to have a relationship with my father. Does that mean when he talks about his next girlfriend that I kind of check out a little bit and I was like, oh, great. Anyway, so let's talk about something. Or you just flat out say, I don't want to talk about your relationships because it's just hard for me to hear. So could we talk about something? I just want to enjoy something else. I'm happy for you, but it's just hard for me to hear. Or don't tell me the bad things of your relationship because it just freaks me out. Or, whatever. You can draw boundaries, but it's interesting and it's notable that Tiffany, again, is doing this. Is it wise? Might we be able to be convinced? When during the previous conversations that Tiffany was involved in, I remember wondering about the motivation there. And, oh, that's right. So my hypothesis was that Tiffany felt rejected by Ed in general and set up a scenario to test whether or not he was loyal to her as a way of really trying to assert or really trying to find out if Ed loved her, but it backfired on her or something like that. That was, I don't know if I said that exactly. That's probably all strong, but I don't know. Hearing all this turmoil and the friend and the mom and the daughter and Ed and Liz, it points to, I think, something bigger than is just on the surface, something more historical, I'm guessing.
I'm spending the rest of my life with Liz, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I don't care.
Time slips away, Ed, and you can't replace time. So at minimum, reconnect with your mom and your daughter the best you can, okay? Because you're going to be very sad one day when your mom passes away.
So, yeah, but it sounds like, and I'm sure no one wants anyone to defend Ed, but it sounds like Ed fell in love and he wants to marry his soulmate that the two of them think they have found. We've all been there, and sometimes we're wrong. Often we're wrong. But, you just have to watch it play out, especially with adults. And so you can't really get involved in that usually. So is it Ed's fault that the relationships with the mom and the sister and the friend are strained? I don't know. So to say to Ed, look, you got to reach out, and it sounds like he has been. But that last little bit, I'll just say, I don't know. There's no way to know. But one of the guilt trips that some parents will use against their kids to try to control and enmesh with them is, if you reject me, what if I die? Like, I'll hear adults saying, okay, well, but if I confront my mom on this and she cuts me out of her life and then she dies and I'm not there, then I will be a terrible, terrible daughter. And yeah, I mean, no, you're not a terrible person for asserting yourself, but that will be a tragic thing that will happen. And it's one of those ideas that the enmeshed parent will try to put into the air of, if you reject me, very, very bad things will happen, including I might pass away and I will die hating you. And you will never be able to forgive yourself for that. And that is a way of controlling people. That's a way of coercing others. So yeah, the mom is elderly. The mom might die, I suppose. I mean, she looks pretty healthy. Who knows? But what the message should be is, how about everyone listen to each other, and everyone has made some mistakes up until this point, and everyone needs to apologize, and not one side has to apologize, and if something bad happens, it's completely on them, because it's not completely on them.
Through your facial expressions throughout this entire conversation, what's your take?
My take is, if the closest people in your life are seeing bad signs and red flags, and you are so desperate to like lock it down, get married, get engaged, like in such a rush.
Yep.
Like, wake up, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I might word it differently, but I thought Stephanie was going to say, you need to break up. And is that what I don't think that's what she's saying. I think she's saying slow down. Yeah, that would be good advice. And maybe they will. Maybe it's just like, look, we'll get married 3 years from now, but we just wanted to get engaged. If that's true, then that would be pretty wise, or wiser. But somehow I think they're going to get married in the next few days, which, might work out, but certainly I wouldn't make that bet.
Making money. And I would want to protect myself. And what I didn't like for now, she's nobody, and he's already making a lot of money. He's very popular. No, I mean, he does a lot.
I don't have a problem signing a prenup, like I just said out there.
Do you know that it's a bad manner to listen to our conversation? Why would you do this?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, so they were talking about her behind her back in a room that is made up of curtains, and saying that she should sign the prenup, but she was adamant about saying, yes, I will sign it, but Ed is actually refusing to have that happen because he doesn't want that. But I've been willing to sign it from the beginning because I want to prove that I'm not nefarious. And so, that's what she says to Natalie, and Natalie should say, oh, you're right. Sorry for saying that. Instead, she says, you're impolite for listening in when I have microphones and there's a camera right there.
I just heard my name as I was walking by.
I didn't say your name.
Well, I heard Ed's name. I heard it. I'm not stupid. I got 2 ears.
This is one of those things that always kind of bothers me about humans, including myself, that when you make a mistake and you get called out in the moment, you'll just say anything to defend yourself. All Natalie has to say is, you're right, sorry, I shouldn't be talking crap. And yeah, I was intimating that you should sign it. And that's right, you did say you were going to sign it, so sorry, I was mistaken. Just say something like that. It's the right thing to do. If you're Stephanie, you say, yeah, sorry, Liz, we were talking about you. We weren't being nefarious, but we were just saying that, I don't know, it just seems like your relationship seems like it's going to not go well for you and him, and I guess we're just really worried. Like, you could say something like that, and sorry, we were talking bad about you. We shouldn't do that. That's unfair. Just say something like that. Why couldn't you say something like that? Instead, it's rolling your eyes, and it's impolite to listen in when there's a camera and I have microphones.
Don't think that I'm using him because I'm not the one that has a problem signing the prenup. I said it first.
Then sign it. What's the problem?
I will sign it.
Okay,
Did you
God
hear
bless you.
him? I can't.
And yeah, it's just, so I was in an argument once, and it had this kind of tone to it, and I was being calm, and I thought I was being calm, and I was trying to explain what was happening, and the other person just kept saying what they were saying, and they weren't listening. This is just someone, in public, someone I didn't know. And they're saying, I think she should sign the prenup. I mean, I mean, he has a lot of, but Natalie literally said she's a nobody and he has a lot of money. So instead of attacking that, she's just like, by the way, I said I would sign it. And then Natalie says, well, I just think you should. Did you not listen to me in the studio? Did you not just hear what I said? I've been saying from the beginning, I will sign it. It's just, people, you're making a point, and they just don't register what they're set on this path of this, because to listen to you is to dismantle their entire premise, which to them is humiliating, and so they just keep at it, and it's really frustrating when you're talking to someone like that. It's like you're talking to a literal wall.
I can't sign it if he doesn't draft it. Why don't you use your ears?
Bye.
That was scary.
And she says, why don't you use yours? Because you're not listening. You didn't listen in there, and you're not listening to me now. I said I would sign it. So what more do you want to hear? I never said I wouldn't sign it. Give me it right now. I will sign it. I've been saying that from the beginning. And then she walks off, and then they call her a B word.
Natalie's talking shit.
About who?
Us.
That fucking bitch.
She's talking about like the prenup. I walked by and I heard them talking about you and my name. They don't fucking listen.
I know. You did good.
Yeah, well, at least I don't fucking filter my brain like she does.
You really stuck up here, man. Good job.
Oh, I just walked into her. She's like, "Why are you doing here?" I'm like, "Don't be talking."
Yeah. You really stuck up for your man. Good job. Okay. In a different scenario, we'd be like, okay, it sounds like he's trying to communicate. Hey, thanks for sticking up for me. It felt good to have loyalty and some, it's like when I've had repeated moments actually with my wife. I will overhear or we'll be together or I'll learn that someone is kind of giving an opportunity for my wife to talk crap about me or to pile on or something. And my wife inevitably will always defend me on some level and won't go along with it, and vice versa. There's times when maybe, what I'll say is there are times when she might actually kind of agree, and I'm sure she would, and she has. There are times when it's not like she's blind defending me, but I don't know. It's just nice to, because have you ever had a partner who you go to Thanksgiving, you go to family gathering, you go to a friend thing, and the first chance they get, they just start talking crap about you, and you're just like, really? Like, how come you couldn't tell me that in the car? Like, you're really talking a lot of crap about me in front of my friends, in front of me. Like, where's this coming from? Like, fine, if you have those complaints, let's talk about them, but why are they coming out here? Like, you're not even giving me an opportunity to respond to that and now I'm sitting in this position like, wow, so my friends are laughing at me and you can really hurt my feelings and you're piling on. It's a sign of insecurity. So, it's normal to say, hey, great, thanks for having my back in there. But when we think about Ed and Liz and the phone conversation and the verbal abuse and the control and the coercion and the attacking and the name calling and the berating behavior, and then we hear him say, thanks for sticking up for me, good job. It's just, and then of course people point out the age difference.
Talking about us.
Oh, good.
Oh, I want to kill that bitch.
All right, don't kill anybody.
I'm not gonna kill anyone, but it was kind of a threat. I'm not nice like I was last time. I didn't have a backbone the last tell-all, and now I do.
You guys ready?
Interesting. So according to her perception, the last time they were on the tell-all, she didn't have a backbone when people were, I think, if I remember right, the last tell-all, they were saying that she was stupid for dating him or something. Was that what was happening? And so she's saying, this time I'm going to stand up for myself. And I'd say that she's done a pretty good job thus far. I mean, she deserves to say, hey, this is my life, and I'm making this choice. And stop infantilizing me, and stop accusing me of trying to, get money from him. It's not okay. And stop accusing me and us of being this horrible thing. Like, you don't know us. She's sticking up for us. And there are worse things she could be saying and worse things she could be doing. Imagine what Angela would do in that situation. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which we watch Ed and Liz. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.